This is the MTN Noon News.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for joining us on your Monday. I'm Jeanelle Slade. Well, the number of people testing positive for COVID-19 is growing at a rate not yet seen in many Montana counties, including Missoula. We'll dive into that story in a minute. But first, new information released today about the COVID-19 vaccine for children ages 5 to 11. Here's today's leading look. Pfizer will seek U.S. authorization for this age group soon, a key step toward beginning vaccinations for youngsters. The vaccine is already available for anyone 12 and older. With kids back in school and the extra contagious Delta variant, there's a huge jump in infections. Pfizer tested a much lower dose for younger kids, about a third of what's in each shot given now. Over the weekend, the Great Falls Shooting Sports Complex was home to Great Falls' first ever United States Practical Shooting Association. Marksmen and women of all skill levels tested their skills and even learned some new ones. It turned out there were even more people than expected, and future events will continue during the winter. And runners came to Billings from all over the United States to compete in the Montana Marathon and Half Marathon. Yesterday's race marked the 41st time runners took off in Molt and finished at Dela Stadium. Elizabeth Candela came all the way from New Jersey to compete. Her goal, to do a half marathon in every state in the U.S., and Montana marks number 42. The full 26-mile course is a Boston Marathon qualifier, and more than 600 people took part. Steamboat Geyser in Yellowstone National Park is slowing down. For 3.5 years, the geyser would shoot water, steam, and mud up in the air up to 300 feet. Fairly regularly. Now, it had another huge eruption earlier this month, but that was the first one in 65 days. Now, scientists say geysers are very unpredictable, and they're not ready to say Steamboat is going dormant just yet. Up until May, Steamboat Geyser was erupting on average every 5 to 10 days since it came back to life in March of 2018. And the night sky will light up tonight with this year's harvest moon. The harvest moon is the full moon that occurs closest to the first day of fall. That's coming up Wednesday. Harvest moon gets its name from the light it provides to farmers as they harvest end of summer crops. Tonight's harvest moon is expected to peak at 7:55 p.m. According to NASA, it will be visible until early Wednesday. And that's a look at today's leading look. Now let's check in with Miller with a quick look at weather.
Hey, keep the umbrella handy today just in case. A decent chance we could see some showers across the state in northern Wyoming. Also could see some snow in the higher elevations. As you can see, widely scattered. What we have is a trough that's sliding from west to east. It's kicking up that opportunity for some rain. Enjoy it while it lasts, because as we move forward, you see it clears out as we get into later tonight, early tomorrow morning. We have a high pressure that's going to take over and keep us dry for the rest of the week. Let's take a look at those highs today. You see a lot of 50s and 60s, but we still have 80s in the forecast. But today, it's going to feel like fall. Funny thing is, when we get to fall on Wednesday, it actually may feel somewhat like summer. A reverse thing going on there. We'll tell you why with that main forecast coming up.
At the family home of Brian Laundrie, crime tape went up and FBI agents went in. They escorted his parents outside to an unmarked vehicle, and shortly after, the parents went back inside. Over the weekend, Laundrie's parents told investigators they had not seen their son in nearly a week. Today's search of the Laundrie home follows the discovery of what appears to be Gabby Petito's body near Grand Teton National Park.
The cause of death has not been determined at this time.
Gabby Petito never goes outside.
Petito disappeared while on a cross-country trip with Laundrie, her fiance.
So, we are right outside Capitol Reef right now.
Laundrie is believed to have returned home to Florida September 1st without her. Josh Taylor is the spokesperson for the Northport, Florida Police Department.
He was back here in this community for 10 days before she was reported missing. It's a lot of time for somebody to kind of get their act together. We certainly think Brian has some explaining to do.
At one point, more than 50 agents searched for him in this nature preserve near the house where he lived with Petito. This morning, they said they'd exhausted the search. CBS News spoke to Gabby Petito's closest friend, Rose Davis, who told us the couple had their issues.
Every relationship has the bumps and everything like that. I would never have thought this could happen.
Through a series of TikTok videos and pictures, Davis pleaded for any information about her best friend and told us she thinks Laundrie has to know something.
I wanted to text him and just be like, please, please give me something.
Davis says Petito always had a way of putting a smile on Davis's face.
She'll do everything to bring the light out in you, and if she can't, she'll give you some of hers.
The attorney for the Laundrie family called the news of Gabby Petito heartbreaking, saying they are praying for Gabby Petito's family. Jerika Duncan, CBS News, Northport, Florida.
The number of people testing positive for COVID-19 is growing to a rate not yet seen by many Montana counties, including Missoula. But what's being done to slow this surge?
So last year, when we started experiencing a spike, we were able to limit group sizes and events and, mandate masks. And those were all the things that helped us to get through that spike in a matter of a couple of months and not get as many cases as what we're seeing now.
New state laws changed the approach of local health departments statewide. At the state legislature, House Bill 121 removed the ability for health boards to implement rules surrounding COVID-19. Rules instead must be approved by a local governing body like City Council. The law also changed a health rule violation from a misdemeanor to a civil penalty. Another law added fallout to strict health measures. House Bill 632 enacted the American Rescue Plan Act in Montana. In the text, a clause states that if local governments impose more strict COVID-19 regulations than the state, federal funding for local water and sewer infrastructure projects is reduced by 20%.
And that's millions and millions of dollars that we would not be able to get into the Missoula economy.
This point was brought up on the final legislative day, April 29th.
The 20% reduction in grants to me is a discrimination against communities that want to protect and do the right thing, protect the public health of their residents.
More than $460 million was allocated to Montana for these sort of projects.
I don't look at it as a reduction. I look at it as use of their money to partner up to see who is serious about the grants.
Because of these changes, the Missoula City County Health Department put stock in their remaining option.
As far as quarantine and isolation, that is the one mitigation strategy that we are still legally able to do in Montana.
An app called Sarah Alert is used for monitoring. Once per day, symptoms are self-reported. Normally, calls are also made to check on people, but the health department is understaffed by about 75 positions and doesn't have that capacity. Farr said there's been more complaints lately.
Primarily coming from employees who are being told by their employer that they have to come to work even if they are sick with COVID.
In response, employers are called to try to answer any questions. People also aren't getting tested during initial symptom onset.
More and more people are waiting a long time to get tested. And so we just, and usually by the time that they do get tested, they're getting tested because they're getting admitted to the hospital because they've been so sick.
The worsening strain on the healthcare system isn't the only crisis Montanans currently face. As we've reported on MTN News, there's a growing cost of living in Montana, along with worker shortages across industries. So healthcare officials rely on one primary tool for fighting this surge: personal responsibility. In Missoula, Geneva Zoltek, MTN News.